Today, I'm talking to 5 platinum producers who have songs with Drake, Future, Lil Baby, Lil Durk, Lil Uzi, Polo G, and many, many more. They're gonna be teaching us how they get placements and give you guys the real sauce on how you can get major placements yourself. The first producer I'm talking to has produced hits for Lil Baby, Lil Durk, Polo G, NBA Youngboy, and more. For the first producer, we've got Haze. What are some of the biggest songs that you've produced?
Definitely the biggest song that I've done so far is In a Minute by Lil Baby. That song went crazy. I never expected it to do what it did. It's like almost double platinum right now.
If you had to start completely from scratch, you lost all your followers, all your connects, you didn't have any emails to send to or anything, but you still had all your skills that you have right now, what would be your plan to get your first placement?
The biggest networking tip, and like I say this to anybody who ever asks me this question, treat networking like it's a ladder. You can't just go DM ATL Jacob, go DM Drake, go DM any of these people and expect any type of response. You got to know your own level, like where you're at, and you got to network at your own level and slightly above it. Make like genuine like friends in the industry who are at your same level. Join all the group chats, interact with people, comment on everybody's posts. Take it step by step and like slowly climb the ladder of working with bigger and bigger producers and artists just as you work your way up to that first major placement or locking in with that big producer. Another good tip for networking that I did use during my come up and that I would use again, if you are interested in working with, say, Lil Durk, you could go on Genius and click on his latest album, and it shows you a list of every producer, engineer, anybody that worked on that album. You get a complete list just right in front of your face with links to their social media and all that shit. It's a super underutilized resource. I feel like it was huge for me, and just I've gotten a lot of work done by hitting up the smaller guy in the room, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I know you're a busy guy. Thank you for your time, man. Appreciate all the advice.
Hell yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on.
The next producer I'm talking to has songs with Future, Roddy Ricch, Lil Baby, NBA Youngboy, and more, which is amazing considering he's only 17 years old. Our second producer today is Juko. What are some of the biggest songs that you've produced?
I'd say the 3 biggest songs I've produced is the new one that just came out by Lil Baby, Top Priority, Roddy Ricch and Future, All Good, and then I did the Youngboy song with the Baby called Neighborhood Superstar.
That All Good shit is so fire.
That was my first major one.
If you had to start from zero, you had no connects, no emails, what would be your step-by-step plan to get your first placement?
If I was trying to get my first placement, personally, I would stick with loops, because I'm assuming most people that are trying to do this are probably not in like a geographic location where they can get in the sessions. I would get really fire at loops, work on my craft, just grind at first before I even send out anything. If you're really just trying to get your first placement, you need to start reaching out to people. Maybe not the biggest producer, but like maybe the co-producer on a big song and like collab on that loops with them or something. Go to all the credits on every album. I would just hit up everybody on every album and just like be like, yo, let's work. A lot of them might not respond because you have no credibility yet. So that's why I say drop loop kits, because you need to at least show them like your shit on your page. I'd still reach out though to like the big guys and send them your kit. I know one guy who did this. He just sent him his free loop kits, like TM88. I'm not going to say who it was. And then he actually responded to him and like locked in with him. Even the big producers will like listen to the loop kits. So just drop like a completely free shit, like, and just show off your loops, and then reach out to the guys that are not maybe the biggest guys.
I think that's a dope way to go about it. Cause like if you drop paid loop kits, like you could start making some money, but if your goal is to build your brand and not so much worried about the short-term money, if you just drop free kits and get people to share that shit and your loops are actually crazy, that's a super good way to get a head start and get some dope people to use your shit.
Yeah, and collab loops too. That would be like an easy way to get placements right now. I still use people starters that have like not many placements as well, and I get them placements all the time. So like if you have fire starters, just send to these loop makers that aren't as big, but they work with these big guys, and you can easily get some.
All right, well, thanks for your time, man. I know you're busy.
Hell yeah, I appreciate you having me on here. Glad to share some tips and shit for sure.
This next producer has worked with Future, Lil Durk, Rod Wave, Lil Uzi Vert, and more. And he had a super unique way to get his foot in the door and land his first major placement. So next up, we're talking to Zypitano. Tell me the story of how you landed your first like major placement.
Alright, so my first major placement also happened to be my biggest placement, which was Rod Wave and Lil Baby Rags to Riches. I think it was midway through 2019. I hit up everyone I knew and I was like, yo, what's your mail? I'm trying to send you samples. I soon realized that, like a lot of people weren't responding to me because I'd hit them up and be like, yo, where can I send you samples? And I'd just be like, in the requests, no one's opening my stuff. So I was like, I gotta find a different way to approach this because I really want people to use my stuff. Around the same time is when I had the trial of Photoshop, a 7-day trial. I was like, I'm gonna hit up people and I'm gonna try to offer them free artwork, and then hopefully after that I try to build a genuine relationship with them, and then they'd want to work on music with me later on. I remember I hit up so many people. I did about at least 70 free artworks. That's how I got people to respond to my DMs. So one of these people who I reached out to is Day6. So I hit this guy up. I'm like, yo, your beats are so fire. I do graphic design. Let me give you free artwork. After I think a month of giving him the free artwork, I hit him up and I was like, yo, you make beats too. Can I send you loops? He's like, sure, send some through. And then on one fine Wednesday evening, I get a text from Day6. He's like, yo, we got one on Rodwave's next album. I'm like, what? Song was out, song was doing well. Day6 texts me. He's like, yo, Lil Baby's on the song. There's a remix coming out. This time when I found out Lil Baby's on the song, I did like 5 laps around my house. When I knew the Rodwave was on the song and the song was coming out, I did like 2 laps. But this time I was like, yo, Lil Baby too? 5 laps, bro. I was running around. It was crazy.
I know you're a busy guy. Thank you for your time today, man. And thanks for dropping that knowledge.
Likewise, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on here. And I hope all of this information has at least helped some of you in one way or the other.
This next producer has produced hit songs for Lil Durk, Trippie Redd, Polo G, and more. Formerly known as Young Cutta, today we have super producer in the making, Henry Lotas. What are some of the biggest songs that you've produced?
Some of the biggest songs I produced were Parting Ways by Polo G, Rich MF by Trippie Redd, Lil Durk, and Polo, and When We Shoot with Lil Durk.
If you had to start from zero right now, 100% from scratch, you lost all your connects, what would be your step-by-step plan to getting your first major placement?
Instagram's the best way to network. I would go on Instagram and shoot out like 100 DMs a day, get their email if they respond and their number, and lock in with them, and then send them beats and just flood them beats like all the time.
Oh yeah, and how do you go about finding the people to network and DM with?
So you could find a rapper and you go into the following section on Instagram. You see who they're like close with, or see, you know, who they're following, and then hit those people up and be like, yo, can I send beats for so-and-so? Or just establish a good relationship with them. And then eventually they'll, you know, like you and put you in the rooms.
What kind of people do you look for? Like, do you send to A&Rs, or is it more like people that the artists seem to be like friends with that you've seen like more success with?
Friends of artists are the best way to do it. A&Rs and managers are good too, but usually they're gonna be more busy. So you wanna hit up their friends.
If you wanted to get in with Drake, how would you offer one of his friends value to where they would send your beats to Drake?
Give them a percentage of the royalty, or give them a part of the advance you take if the song gets placed. There's a lot of ways to do it.
Well, shit, I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you coming on here and dropping these gems, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into our last guest today, who's worked with some insane artists, if you've enjoyed this video so far, hit that subscribe button so I can keep making interviews with dope producers like this one. Now, you might already know the next producer I'm talking to. He's produced for Drake, Future, Lil Baby, The Kid Laroi, and many, many more. For our last guest today, we have Rio Leyva. What are some of the biggest songs that you've produced?
Tell Me Why by Kid Laroi, Lot of Me by Lil Tecca, Both Sides by Gucci Mane and Lil Baby, Back Outside Boys by Drake.
If you had to start from zero right now, what would be your plan to get your first major placement?
When I started, you could really get placements just off of making cool loops and DMing people. But I think now what I would do is, you've seen those people on TikTok who just post their shit every single day. I feel like you should just keep posting on your socials every day, just making a bunch of cool shit. And at some point, if you're really fire, it's gonna show up on their feed. I've hit up a lot of producers off TikTok, just seeing them post their loops. And I'm like, damn, this person is fire. And I'll start working with them. So I feel like just being on socials, you know, start a YouTube, start a TikTok, DM a million producers every day. If you're just online and getting yourself out there, I feel like it's like a lottery ticket. Like, you DMing like one person is a lottery ticket. But if you DM so many people and post so many times, one of those lottery tickets is gonna lead to something. I feel like that's what I would do. You just gotta put yourself out there as much as you can. Like we're doing. There's just so many people, you can't just make music.
Putting yourself out there on TikTok and YouTube and stuff, is there anything else that you would do, or any strategies that you have to get placements?
I feel like the game and just like producing is always evolving. There are always new strategies to get songs. I want the people out there who are wanting to get themselves out there and get songs to try to come up with new ways, you know? You could make a kit of a million phrases and starters and one shots, and then send it out as starters to a million loop makers and say, oh, if you use my phrases, it's a collab. you know?
It's exactly what I've been doing.
There are ways to like get yourself out there and get on songs that right now people don't know about, but in a couple years, everyone's going to be doing. So you just got to try to stay ahead of the curve, because if you see something working, at a certain point, if you see it working, other people see it working and it's going to get oversaturated. So you always have to try to stay ahead of that.
Well, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate you coming on here and dropping these gems.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
If you want to learn how one of Gunna's producers goes about getting placements, click this video right here.